There's a manual your grandmother kept in her head, and most of it died with her generation. Some of it was pushed out by industry. Some of it was bought out by big food companies that needed her to start buying what she used to make. Some of it was regulated out by federal agencies that did not exist when she was a child. The result is that the average American household today cannot survive 8 days without a supermarket. 8 days is the FEMA estimate. Some studies put it at 4. In 1932, the average American household could survive a year without a supermarket, without a freezer, without a microwave, without electricity in roughly 40% of cases. What I want to walk through in the next 12 minutes is what they actually did. Not the romanticized version, the actual technical methods used by ordinary people during the Great Depression to stay fed, warm, clean, and alive. 25 specific practices. Some of them are technically illegal in parts of the United States in the year 2026. Some of them work better than the modern equivalent you are buying off shelves every week. Some were never replaced for any good reason at all. All of them were standard practice in any working class household in 1934. By 1960, most had vanished from American kitchens. By 1990, most had vanished from American memory. I am not interested in nostalgia. I am interested in what still works when the supply chain stops, when the power goes out, when the dollar buys less, when the shelves are empty. Before we begin, the complete documentation, every method, every ratio, every temperature, every timing, the modern safety adjustments, the legal notes per state, all of it is in one document, one click away. The link is in the description. 7 days money back guarantee. Now let us get into the list. Number 1, water glass eggs. Sodium silicate dissolved in water at a ratio of 1 part to 10. Fresh, unwashed eggs submerged in a stoneware crock and stored in a cool basement. Your grandmother filled a 5-gallon crock every spring when hens were laying heavy and pulled the last eggs out the following February. The unwashed bloom on the shell, combined with the silicate barrier, kept the eggs fresh for 9 to 12 months. The United States Department of Agriculture does not endorse the method today, which is not the same as saying it does not work. The chemistry is exactly what it was in 1910. Number 2, the Hoover blanket, named for the president most blamed for the Depression. Newspapers folded into thick layers, slid between 2 thin blankets, sewn shut along the edges. The trapped air, plus the bulk of the paper itself, made the equivalent of a modern wool blanket out of yesterday's news. Coal cost money. Newspapers were free. People did not freeze. Number 3, the hot brick. A common red brick wrapped in flannel, heated for 2 hours on a wood stove, slipped into the foot of the bed an hour before sleep. It held heat for 6 hours. A child went to sleep warm in a house where the bedroom temperature dropped to 40 degrees overnight. The same brick, replaced once a week when it cracked, served a family of 4 through an entire winter without 1 cent of additional fuel. Number 4, the fireless cooker, also called the hay box. A wooden box lined with hay, straw, or shredded newspaper, with a deep nest size to fit a heavy iron pot. You brought the food to a boil for 15 minutes, transferred the covered pot into the box, closed the lid, and walked away. By dinner, the meat was tender, the beans cooked through, the rice perfect. Now, let me tell you a quick story. Eleanor is 67, lives in Sarasota, Florida, retired school teacher, 38 years in the classroom. She works part-time at the public library now. Her husband, Frank, passed in 2019, 4 kids, 11 grandchildren. Eleanor has lived through at least 5 major hurricanes in Sarasota. Andrew, Charlie, Wilma, Irma, Ian. She has, in her own words, never panicked once. Every August, she takes inventory. She fills jugs. She tests the generator Frank bought in 2004. She rotates her stored food. She makes sure her medications are covered for 30 days. Her grown children think she is, quote, charming about it. 2 years ago, her daughter, who lives in Tampa, gave her the documentation as a gift. Eleanor read it cover to cover the same week. Her commentary was that 90% of what was in the document was what her own mother had taught her growing up in rural Georgia in the 1960s. The other 10% was the technical updates, modern water filtration, battery storage that was not possible when she was young, communication redundancy, things that fit alongside the basics, not instead of them. Last September, Hurricane Idalia. Eleanor's neighbors, a couple in their 30s, were at the home improvement store at 9 in the evening the night before, fighting over the last battery-operated lanterns. Eleanor was at home. The next morning, she made coffee for the couple from down the street whose power had gone out. Her power was also out. Her coffee maker was running on the small inverter Frank had set up in 2010. The complete documentation cost less than what Eleanor's neighbors spent on the wrong supplies the night before the storm. 7 days money-back guarantee, link in the description. When the grid fails, knowledge does not. Back to the list. Number 5, rendering fat. Bacon grease, beef tallow, lamb fat, strained through cheesecloth into a clean mason jar, stored in the icebox or the cool corner of the cellar. 1 pound of rendered bacon fat replaced butter for 2 weeks of cooking. The same fat, mixed with lye, became soap, mixed with sawdust, packed into a tin can, stuck with a wick that was a candle that burned for 40 hours. Nothing was thrown out. Pause for 1 second. Everything I am covering today, plus 18 more methods that did not fit in this video, is in the complete documentation. Exact ratios, modern safety adjustments, the list of practices that actually got banned and why, one-time access, 7 days money-back guarantee, link in the description. Let us continue. Number 6, the bone used 3 times. First boil, broth, 8 to 12 hours of simmering, every flavor extracted. Second boil, the bone added to the next pot, weaker but still useful. Third use, the spent bones dried, ground in a hand mill, scattered on the garden as calcium and phosphorus. A single chicken carcass fed a family 3 nights and fertilized the spring tomato bed. Number 7, sourdough starter, a jar of flour and water on the counter. Wild yeast captured from the air, fed daily with a tablespoon of flour and a tablespoon of water. Bread without commercial yeast. The starter your grandmother kept on her counter was older than her marriage. A starter from 1929, properly fed, would still be raising bread today. The bacteria in a healthy starter also predigest the gluten, which is why people who cannot tolerate modern bread can often eat sourdough without issue. Number 8, lard pie crust. 3 parts flour, 1 part lard, cold water. No butter required. Lard had a higher melting point than butter, which meant the layers stayed distinct in the oven and the crust came out flaky. Cheaper, flakier. Lasted longer in the pantry without refrigeration. The shift to butter and shortening was a marketing decision, not a quality one. Number 9, acorn flour. White oak acorns, gathered in October. Shells cracked, kernels boiled in 7 changes of water until the tannins washed out. Dried in a low oven, ground in a hand mill. Substituted for 1/3 of the wheat flour in any bread or pancake recipe. Free protein and fat from any park with oak trees. Cherokee, Iroquois, and Appalachian families lived on acorn flour for centuries before wheat became cheap enough to displace it. Number 10, the dandelion, every part used. Young leaves in salad, older leaves boiled in 2 waters to remove bitterness, roots scrubbed, dried, roasted in a low oven, ground into coffee. Yellow flowers steeped into syrup, made into jelly, fermented into wine. The plant your lawn service kills with herbicide is more nutritious by weight than spinach, kale, or any vegetable in the produce aisle. Number 11, chicory coffee. The roasted root of the chicory plant, ground and brewed alone or stretched with whatever real coffee a household had. A pound of coffee that was supposed to last a week lasted 3. The flavor was bitter, deep, almost chocolatey. New Orleans still drinks chicory coffee on purpose. The plant grows wild along roadsides in most of North America. Free coffee, in a working-class household, was not a metaphor. It was a Tuesday. Number 12. Pickling every vegetable every season. Cabbage in October, sauerkraut by Christmas, cucumbers in July, dills by August. Green tomatoes in September after the first frost killed the vines. Beets, carrots, beans, eggs, peppers, watermelon rinds. Vinegar and salt did the rest. A root cellar with 200 jars was a normal late October sight in any rural kitchen. The lactofermentation that produces real sauerkraut also produces probiotics that no pasteurized supermarket version contains. Number 13, salt cured pork. A whole hog butchered in November when the temperature first dropped below freezing. The hams and shoulders rubbed with salt, sugar, and saltpeter, packed in wooden barrels for 6 weeks. Then hung in the smokehouse for 2 weeks over a slow hickory fire. The bacon and ham cured this way kept at room temperature for over a year. No refrigeration, no nitrites added beyond the natural saltpeter. Number 14, the root cellar. A hole dug into the side of a hill lined with wood covered with sod, vented with a small pipe. Internal temperature stayed between 34 and 40 degrees year-round. Apples wrapped in newspaper, 1 per fruit, kept until April. Carrots packed in damp sand, potatoes in burlap sacks, onions and garlic braided and hung from the ceiling. A family of 6 pulled fresh root vegetables from this hole until the new harvest came in. No electricity, no refrigerant, just dirt and physics. Number 15, crock pickling brine, 3 uses. First, brine pickled cucumbers. The same brine, replenished with vinegar and salt, pickled green beans the next month. The third round, weakened, became the splash for cabbage slaw or salad dressing all winter. Nothing useful was poured down a drain. Number 16, the reused tea bag, black tea, 1 bag, 3 cups before the flavor was truly gone. The spent leaves were spread on the rose beds, tannin and trace nitrogen, free fertilizer. A box of 100 bags lasted 4 months instead of 1. The same trick worked for loose leaf tea, which most working class households used because it was cheaper per cup. Number 17, coffee grounds used twice. First brew, full strength, drunk in the morning. Second brew, half strength, drunk by men going to a job at 4 in the morning before the sun was up. The spent grounds went around acid-loving plants, blueberries, azaleas, hydrangeas. Slugs avoided them. The same grounds, mixed into compost, accelerated decomposition by 2 weeks compared to compost without them. Number 18. Vinegar, the cleaner. White vinegar diluted 1-to-1 with water. It killed most bacteria on a kitchen counter, dissolved soap scum, removed window streaks, descaled the kettle, softened laundry, neutralized refrigerator odor. 6 commercial cleaning products replaced by 1 bottle that cost 12 cents in 1934 and roughly $4 today. Number 19. Baking soda, the everything else, toothpaste, deodorant, scouring powder, refrigerator deodorizer, fire suppressant for grease, antacid, garden fungicide, rust remover with vinegar. A 2-pound box was cheaper than any one of those products purchased separately, and worked better in most applications. Number 20, lye soap, wood ash leached with rainwater-produced potash lye. Combined with rendered fat at the right ratio, it saponified into soap, harsh by modern standards. It killed lice. It stripped grease from coal-stained work clothes when nothing else would. A year of soap for a household of 6 was made in one Saturday in the spring from kitchen scraps and yard ashes. The chemistry is the same chemistry every artisan soap maker uses today, with prettier packaging and a 400% markup. Number 21, the mint pile. Every torn shirt, ripped sock, frayed sheet went into a basket, not the trash. Sundays after church, the mother and the older daughter sat with the basket and a needle. A pair of socks survived 10 darning sessions before it was finally retired into rag. A sheet became a pillowcase, then a flour sack lining, then quilt squares, then strips for a rag rug. The average American today throws away 70 pounds of textiles per year, almost none of which has reached the end of its useful life. Number 22, the scrap quilt. Every garment that could not be mended again was cut down. Squares of denim, wool, cotton, flannel sewn into a top. The batting was old wool blankets or unspun fleece. The backing was feed sack cotton. A quilt finished in February kept a child warm for the next 20 winters. The quilt your grandmother left you cost $0 in materials. Number 23, feed sack dresses. Flour and chicken feed in the 1930s came in printed cotton sacks. Mills started printing them in patterns specifically because rural women were turning them into clothing. A girl's Sunday dress was made from 3 matched sacks. The seams were inside, the hem was the original sack edge. An entire generation of working-class American girls grew up wearing what the chicken feed came in, and most of them did not know they were poor. Number 24, the bartering network. The eggs you produced went to the neighbor with the cow, traded for milk and butter. The milk went to the neighbor with the orchard, traded for apples and cider. The cider went to the neighbor with the smoker, traded for cured pork. Cash was rare. The economy was real. No taxable transaction took place. The Internal Revenue Service has been trying to close that loophole ever since, with limited success, because there is no practical way to track a barter network that runs on trust between 4 households on the same dirt road. Number 25, the kitchen garden. Every household with 3 feet of dirt grew something. Tomatoes against a south wall, lettuce in a window box, pole beans climbing the porch railing, herbs on a sunny shelf, potatoes in a barrel on a fire escape. The Department of Agriculture estimated in 1935 that 40% of the food consumed by working-class households came from a backyard garden of less than 100 square feet. Today, the same demographic produces almost none of its own food. 3 of the most important methods did not fit in this video. The egg preservation alternatives that work better than water glass in a hot climate. The fermented cabbage protocol that builds the gut bacteria the supermarket version cannot. And the legal status, state by state, of the practices on this list, because 3 of them are not legal where you live. I dropped all 3 in the pinned comment below. Read those before you close the tab. Now look at what we just walked through. 25 methods. Almost none of them require equipment that costs over $50. Almost all of them require knowledge that used to be passed mother to daughter, father to son, neighbor to neighbor. 2 generations broke the chain. The grandmothers who knew this stopped teaching it because their daughters did not want to learn. The daughters who could have learned it grew up in a world where the supermarket was always full and the lights always came on. The granddaughters now realize that neither of those things is permanent. The skills are recoverable. The knowledge is recoverable. None of this is lost. It is sitting in old cookbooks, in extension service pamphlets from the 1930s, in the memories of the few people still alive who watched their own grandmothers do all of it. The documentation pulls it together in one place. If this kind of work is what you came here for, the subscribe button is right below the video. We are publishing 1 method per video, and we are not slowing down. Hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. The next video covers a method the food industry would prefer you forget. You will not want to miss it. Your grandmother knew how to live without the things you now cannot live without. That knowledge is recoverable. The grid will fail again. The shelves will go empty again. The dollar will buy less, and then less, and then less. When the grid fails, knowledge does not. See you in the next one.